still waiting for?
No, I think, Will, is everybody there on your end? I know Brianne Durham is here from the state as well. So if everybody's here on Will's end, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Okay. And
We invited other board members, but I haven't seen him yet.
And after we get going, if the clerk would just check the attendees list to make sure there's no council members hanging out in the audience that didn't get into the meeting. But I think I will call the meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dee, and I am president this year of the Aberdeen City Council. And I am just really thankful for this opportunity to connect with our Main Street partners and learn more about the program and start talking about what our future together might look like. If our clerk would take the roll, please.
Andrews?
Here.
Councilmember Ellis?
Yes, here.
Councilmember Francie? Looks like he's connecting to audio right now. I'll come back. Councilmember Gordon?
Unmute.
I see.
Muted, Frank.
Here.
Hi, I'm here.
Okay. Councilmember Cashman?
I'm here.
Councilmember Kennedy?
Present.
Councilmember Mackey?
Here.
Councilmember Richrod? Councilmember Ross? Councilmember Shaw?
Here.
Councilmember Short?
Here.
Mayor Shave?
Here.
Councilmember Francie?
I'm here.
One absence, the rest present.
Okay, so you did see that Councilmember Richrod waved in as Lisa.
Yeah.
For some reason.
He's
All
been,
right.
it's Councilmember
Oh,
Ross.
okay.
the
All
one that-
right.
Okay.
That's the fourth Lisa today.
So I think right now what I'd like to do is maybe turn it over to Director Scott to help facilitate some introductions. We could start with our Main Street, the council members, and Lisa, you're probably better at this than I am. If you could just lead us through getting to know each other, that'd be great.
Well, hopefully we all know each other. I know that Brianne's probably not as familiar with City Council as the Main Street board members are. So I'm very grateful and thankful to have Brianne Durham here from Washington State Main Street. She's the executive director, and she'll be giving us a presentation tonight just to bring everybody up to speed again on what Main Street is and what it does and how it can help. And so I'm excited because there's a lot of city council members that were not part of our city council 3 years ago when we brought Main Street in. And I think that'll be a good background to start with. But what I want to do is also just go ahead and start with Will and have him introduce his board. Did you want to go around and have council introduce themselves as well, or do you want to just dive right in?
I think since it is a council meeting, well, I think that's a good idea. Will can introduce his board to the council. That'd be great.
Okay, thank you. So with no further ado, Will Rousseau, he is the executive director for Aberdeen Main Street. And so Will, I'm going to turn it over to you so you can introduce your board.
Thank you, council members, for this opportunity to get together. And I'm delighted to share whatever questions you have. And we're excited about what we're doing. So I want to start off with Gary Jones. Gary Jones went before the board to create the Main Street, and he mentored us along, and he's still our subject matter expert. He's on screen right now. Also, I want to introduce our president, Bobby McCracken, way down in Arizona. She went down there, and she's not feeling too well, but she's hanging in there right now. So thank you, Bobby, for joining us. I think everybody knows Bobby. And of course, you know Betty Worth, and she's got the downtown screen behind her. So if you didn't know who she was, Brianne might not have. She's our vice president.
May I say something, Will? I'm sorry to interrupt. Debbie Ross is having a hard time connecting.
I see her. Yep.
Okay. She just sent me a text.
Yep, she made it. there's Debbie.
Sorry about that. I was just having trouble getting in.
Okay.
So those are the board members that are present at the moment, but we also want to say that we have Alan Richrod, who is not only a city council member, but he's also on our board. And we have the council member Deborah Ross, and she is your representative on our board as a liaison between the council and us. And then we do have some other board members, a building and a business owner, Paul Mecke from the Grand Heron. And then we also have a lady named by Tia Vaughn. She was with the paper. Now she's trying to establish her own business. And we also have, oh, am I missing anyone? I'm sorry. I should have had a list. I think that was it.
Did you mention Kathy?
Oh, I'm sorry. My gosh, Kathy. Kathy is our amazing board member. I really appreciate Kathy. I'm so sorry, Kathy. I depend on you every day. How could I forget you? Kathy Williams, and she is, she also works at the Bank of the Pacific in town here.
Thank you, Will. That was great. So with that, did you want to introduce Brianne or?
Sure.
Okay, go right ahead.
So Brianne is kind of our fearless leader, not just for Aberdeen, but when we joined, we were the 34th city in the state to join the Main Street program and get that designation from Brianne. And since then, I think there's been 4 other cities, I believe, 3 other cities. Yeah. So we're at the lucky number 37 now of cities that joined. And Brianne coordinates us all together as a group. She feeds us best practices, and we're able to reach out and work with one another. Not only does she give us good advice and help us do these things that we need to do, but she's a sounding board when things are tough and we're able, like, hey, we need help, and this is a mission impossible today. And she's been there for that. She also then connects us through the state and into the legislators. And with that, I'll let Brianne say a word, because I can't really adequately introduce her and her talents.
You did great. I always feel so strange and inadequate introducing other people, Will. So thank you for doing a swell job. And hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm having one of those days where I've been in Cle Elum and Kent and now Aberdeen, thanks to the wonderful world of Zoom. So very glad I could join you, and thanks for your interest in Main Street. I've been in this field for 10 years now. I spent 5 years as a local Main Street director like Will in my hometown of Lewiston, Idaho. And I used to talk with city council all the time as a local Main Street director. So it's actually kind of fun for me to get to chat with you today. And I'm under the impression that you want a bit of a presentation. I'm kind of looking around at faces to confirm that that's what you're expecting, as opposed to just kind of a casual question and answer session. Want me to launch into something? Okay, I'm getting at least a few nods here. Very good. Well, Lisa, I'll lean on you to let me know if this doesn't look right on your screen, because I had some weirdness with sharing slides last week. So jumping into this version, does that look okay? Okay, very good. Well, one of the things that we've been talking about an awful lot over the last year is Main Street's impact. And that's for a couple of reasons. One is that we actually had a really in-depth study done about a year ago about the impact of Main Street across the state of Washington. And I'll share some of that with you during my slides. But we're also talking about Main Street's impact because it has been quite tremendous in the face of COVID. And I think that some of the reasons it has been so very strong is that Main Street was really built in this idea of bringing people together to support a beautiful community and to support the small businesses in it. It's been around for over 40 years. It was developed as a program of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And the idea really was to give kind of this framework to any local community that wanted to kind of rally the troops to get things done in their own town. And I think it works really well for that. And we could have a whole session just about the Main Street approach. I wanted, especially if this is brand new for some of you, I wanted to give you just the briefest explanation. When we talk about Main Street, we're talking about a movement, a national movement that's using this Main Street approach that is really meant to be this comprehensive grassroots way for a community to create a strong local economy and really bring people together. So the idea is that it's really asset-based economic development. You're using your local assets like your entrepreneurs, your unique cultural history, the built environment. Aberdeen has a beautiful downtown built environment, and then an engaged public. That's the 4-point approach in a very small nutshell. Typically, Main Street programs try to keep a really good balance of these sort of 4 core competencies. So you're working in economic vitality, which means you're really focusing on how the businesses are doing. You're also working on the design piece. So what's the physical environment that makes up the downtown? The promotions piece is getting people excited about downtown, bringing them down there, maybe reintroducing them if they say they haven't been downtown in a while, which was totally my case in Lewiston. We were reintroducing people to downtown all of the time. And then a really important part is just leveraging that engaged public. So doing a lot of outreach, letting people know what you're all about, forging those partnerships like this one you have with the city, and really bringing people together for a shared vision. So in Washington State, as Will said, we have a rather large network. We have 2 different designations, affiliates and Main Street communities. And as Will said, 3 years ago now, you became a designated Main Street community. You had been an affiliate. So you're one of 36, and there are 30 additional affiliates in our network as well. And I have the privilege of working with all of these towns, including yours. And I really, really believe in this work. It's very compelling to see how Main Street works in so many different environments, from Port Townsend to Colfax, bigger cities like Kent and Vancouver, and then Roslyn and La Crosse. So it's really a delight to work with all of your towns across the state. So I was told that you, at least a few of you, were specifically interested in learning more about the relationship between cities and Main Street communities. So that's the next bit that I wanted to share with you. I actually went over some survey data that we have from those 36 designated Main Street communities, so that I could give you a better picture of exactly what that relationship tends to look like. So cities can contribute to Main Street programs in a lot of different ways. And I sort of regret that I only listed the financial ways here, but because we know that cities can be really important partners as committee members and getting projects done as well. But in terms of the sort of financial relationship that cities have with Main Street programs, there are sort of 3 major ways that tends to occur in Washington: through contract for services, through the tax credit incentive program, or through lodging tax. Pardon me. And then the range of contributions varies quite a bit. That tends to be between $25,000 and $100,000 annually. And there are a couple of towns that have more in the 10,000 range, but those are populations of under 2,500. And then there are also a few that actually receive more than 100,000 from their cities annually. But I think the main thing to note here is that the vast majority of Main Street communities in Washington do have a financial relationship with their cities. From a survey we did a year ago, only 3 reported that they did not. I would say that it's highly appropriate to have that financial relationship between a city and a Main Street community, because the nature of the work that Main Street does really tends to benefit cities, the public, more so than anybody else, even the businesses themselves. You know, the work that a Main Street program does, and I mean all of it, everything from promotions to economic vitality design, outreach piece, all of that together really benefits the tax base of the city in a lot of different ways. It creates a healthy environment for businesses to thrive in. It creates a healthy environment for people, for residents to thrive in. And it also really, and I don't think you can undervalue this, it creates a really strong volunteer ethic. Main Street programs, while staff like Will are essential, and I would say a requirement to be a Main Street community, the volunteer base is a critical part of it as well. You know, there's so much work that the average Main Street program does, it can't be done by staff alone. So Main Street programs are really kind of building up that volunteer culture in a community as well. And some of the ways that we know about the benefits of a Main Street effort are through this impact study that I referenced a few moments ago. And actually, I would be happy to share after my presentation the link to this in the chat if anybody wants to dive into it more, which I certainly would encourage. So we did this study, or rather I would say we had a professional economist do this study to really kind of tap into the community, fiscal, and economic impacts of Main Street programs in Washington. We always have known that you know, jobs are generated and new businesses are generated, but we wanted to understand it better. And so some of the things that we learned from this study included just the sheer scope of Main Street in Washington, just the number of businesses represented in those 36, when we did the study, 34 cities, the number of employees, and the revenue base that was coming out of those Main Street districts. And part of the reason this is important from a statewide perspective is that through this, we actually found out that if you take all of the Main Street districts in the state, kind of as a whole, actually the largest employer in Washington state, more than Boeing, more than Amazon, more than Microsoft. There are so many people employed and in a diverse way. So many small businesses are able to employ this number of people in our state. And we're just really glad to have that information. Maybe more relevant to you is the economic impact piece. So a big part of what this study did was break down the different types of functions that a Main Street program has. And I know I saw everybody just lean in. This slide is much too small. That's why I'm going to post in the chat the study, and I'll even tell you what page this is on so you can look at it on your own time too. The thing to note here is that, you know, we went over the 4-point approach, but with this study, we actually broke down the types of activities that a Main Street program does. And then our consultants studied each of those types of activities to determine the economic impact. And when I say that, I mean the business sales attributable to that activity, the sales that would not have been expected had it not been for the activity of the Main Street program. So we're talking about things like festivals and events bringing in $100 million in terms of economic impact. The promotions, branding, and marketing work that a Main Street program does, business attraction and recruitment, services to small businesses like trainings, and then all of the ways that a Main Street program interacts with the built environment too, whether that be building preservation or working on kind of the public realm improvements. All of those things have a positive impact, and cumulatively, it's pretty astounding how those activities together are really attributable to a much higher amount of business sales than would have been expected without them. And then from sort of a state fiscal perspective, one of the things that we learned too is that for every dollar that the state of Washington has invested in our program over the course of this study, which was 2011 to 2019, for every dollar they invested, they got $1.58 back. And so this is really, I think, connected to that idea of public investment in a Main Street program paying off through the types of activity that Main Street programs generate. And then I'll go over this bit rather quickly, but I'm just incredibly proud of the work that our Main Street communities, including Aberdeen, have done over the last year. I mean, it's trite to talk about exactly how hard this year has been, but I think the thing that has kept me personally motivated over the years, seeing how Main Street programs have just really stepped up, and I mean really quickly too, because they tend to be really well connected to the businesses in their district, and that was incredibly important this year. So in terms of getting information out to businesses, getting businesses connected with federal and state resources, I don't think there has been another partner out there that has been able to do that more effectively than Main Streets. And you can see on this slide just the types of ways that our then 34 Main Street communities were involved directly in getting CARES funding and PPP out to businesses. The one that just really kind of blew my socks off was that 23 of those 34 actually assisted small businesses with their PPP applications. And I know there was a tremendous need for that, and I didn't actually expect Main Streets to do that, but really shouldn't be surprised that they did, because they're so tuned into the needs of the businesses in their district. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I think this is my last one, and I'll go through it quickly because I imagine we want to talk more specifically about Aberdeen through Will's presentation, but this bit here just delves a bit more into the types of, in addition to helping businesses connect with grants and loans, this dives more into the other types of things that Main Street programs statewide did in response to COVID. So they put up a lot of direct support for small businesses in a lot of different ways. So, giving funding, whether that be grants or loans directly to businesses, supporting marketing and promotion of small businesses, which we know is really important, especially during the kind of the rocky reopening cycles we've been through, helping with public health messaging, as well as design enhancements to benefit small businesses. Along that front, we also asked how much square footage of public space did you activate for the benefit of small businesses last year? And this number is probably somewhat meaningless, but it boils down to, on average, 10,000 square feet per Main Street community that was activated for businesses. And we know how important that was, especially for restaurants. Also distributed a heck of a lot of masks and PPE. And then I asked the Main Street directors to estimate the number of businesses that were benefited by these various functions, information, education, financial resources, or technical assistance. And I guarantee they underestimated, but just the sheer number of businesses that were supported by Main Street programs in the last year, I think made a world of difference. And with that, I conclude this sort of harried presentation, knowing that some of you might have questions for me, and then I'm happy to stick around for the duration of this meeting should they come up now or after Will's presentation. So thank you again for your interest. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, Brianne, so much. And if you want to send me that link, I'll just forward it because I don't think we have the chat feature enabled. So if you just want to send that to me, I'll make sure to send it out to everyone that was here.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much for doing that and taking time out of your busy schedule. Are there any questions from City Council at this point for Brianne that you'd like to ask? Liz.
Yes, is there Main Street signage? Forgive me if we have it and I haven't noticed it, but just curious.
Do you mean like for your designation that says like we're a Washington Main Street community? No, that's a good idea though. No, it's not something we offer. Thank you for the question. It's a good one. Yeah, like for a National Historic District, you would have highway. Yeah, no, we don't have that.
That's a
Are there
great,
any other questions?
I'm looking right now. I don't have everybody on my screen, so I can't see if hands are up. So if you have a question, just jump in real quick as I'm scrolling through.
See any, Lisa?
Okay, thank you. So thank you again. And with that, if any more questions come up, please feel free to hop right in and answer or ask the question. So I'll turn this over to Will at this point.
I think my
Mayor,
mouse is
the mayor was speaking too, and you were muted. The new catchphrase, right, of 2020?
I thought I unmuted. I was going to try to beat Will to it so I could just jump in for just a second here.
Jump right in.
This issue with Main Street in their funding plan was tabled at the last council meeting. And now we're sitting here with everybody, and the only question is, do you have a sign that says Main Street? Come on, you guys, speak up. You obviously had questions because you tabled the funding of Main Street. So feel free to speak up and ask.
Oh, Mayor Shea?
It's a city council workshop, and I think a lot of us were waiting for Will to talk because we want to ask questions of our actual Main Street. I mean, it's nice to hear from somebody who gave us, you know, an overview of the state, especially for new people, but it's Will and the board that we want to hear from.
Also, we didn't just table Main Street, we tabled the funding of ARM in general, which includes part of Main Street. So this issue is much more than just looking at Main Street. Main Street is a portion of this. So, you know, Mayor, we're trying to gather information, and just because we don't have questions specifically of the state representative, like Ms. Sanders said, you know, what we really want to do is hear from Will and hear, you know, what they've been doing, how they've been doing stuff, and get an update. We haven't gotten updates, so this is our chance to get an update.
Thank you, Councilman Kennedy. You know, I've been to a lot of workshops, and that is typically, you know, the council's response. You know, we extend the courtesy of letting people present, and we try to, maybe some of our questions will be answered if we allow our guests to continue with their presentations, or we'll ask better informed questions. But I do thank you, Will, for coming. I know it's tough to be on the bubble here, but I don't think that's really the purpose of the meeting. My purpose in asking for the council to have this workshop was because we had a beginning contract, and now is the time to, you know, talk about what our future looks like together. So we have Main Street. We've got all of these wonderful people here tonight, and I just welcome and thank you for coming to share with us. And I expect, as is our practice, at the end of the meeting, each council member, if we don't jump in with questions, it is our practice in workshops, just for our guests' knowledge, it's our practice for each council member to take a turn and share their thoughts and ask more clarifying questions as we get towards the end of the meeting. So thank you. And with that, I would welcome your presentation, Will, and thanks again for coming and being so gracious about being, because I had hoped that we could get in December, but you know, we just got a lot going on, and you do too. So thank you for coming.
Well, I appreciate this, and I appreciate the questions. And I think, you know, I can tell that all of us have passions here. You know, we all have one common thing, and that is we want a better place for Aberdeen. I'm on that team. And so I don't have slides. I do want to say that for the general public that's listening, just I'm sorry, Councilman Kennedy, that you haven't been briefed, but we did send you a report, and I'd like to, if you have questions off of that report, I'd like to be able to answer those. They come out every quarter, and I remember back on August 28th, 2019, when you're running for office, I handed you those things, and I said, these are the way we brief. And I know that you've probably seen those, and so I just don't want the public to think that we don't submit those things. So if there's questions off of that, that's great, because I would like to be able to talk about that. And of course, everyone is invited to our monthly roundtable, which is not just us. The mayor comes, different people from the city, different businesses, building owners, as well as many organizations. We call it 98520 work group, and that's been touted as a best practice. Brianne's had me shout it out to the other cities, and we've bragged about that because that gives us a chance to all of us get on one page. Councilman Ellis, I believe, went to one of them, and we really appreciate that because she got a chance to hear how everyone's trying to collaborate and work together. And certainly, I have to tell you that we do not work in a silo. There's no way to do all this without all the partners, including you. And so we need that help, and we need that crosstalk. And Main Street is really the sum of all of us. When you say something to about the program, you realize that our decisions are grassroots. So it's not just me. It's the sum of these volunteers. I want to point out too that, this year it has been tough. It's been very tough for us. And we started off the year kind of financially really struggling because of the fact that, the previous council administration, some of you still part of it, but, had to make some tough decisions about the homeless camp and that moving it downtown. And we lost one of our largest providers of funding because of that. And so it has been, relying on volunteers is where it came down to. And volunteers, we can't capture every hour that they do. They're not able to track that all the time in what they are involved with through Main Street. But I'm sure, I will read this so that the general public can hear it, because I know you've read it. We are at a point where in 2018, the volunteers that were coming through our agency and helping out, their time equated to $11,348 that the city didn't have to spend on beautification and on other things that they were involved with. In 2019, that rose to $36,069. And I think that tells you that this community and the people around here really want to help make this place a better place for businesses and for themselves. And that's an exciting number. In 2020, even with COVID and the major shutdowns that we had, we still got a value of $25,772. And so had we not had COVID, I think we would have seen that number much higher. And so I think that it's important that that the council knows that there's a standing invite to our roundtables, as I mentioned, that you have 2 city council reps that come to every board meeting to sit on committees. And for the last 3 years, as you've had any questions on Main Street or ARM or myself, you've had an avenue to be able to work with those folks and dial down to have your questions answered, and for them to be able to rise up and tell you the kinds of things that we are doing, as well as the open houses that we've had. And so can we communicate better? Yeah, I think we all can communicate better. And I don't want to be in a situation where we're an island to ourselves and we're wondering what each others are doing. And so, Mr. Councilman Kennedy, if you feel that way, I know we have a great relationship, and you're able to call me and talk about these things if you'd like to. And please know that door is always open, or a Zoom, or however way you'd like to do that, as well as anyone else out there. So really, our point of contact unofficially has been Lisa in some regards because we have similar work patterns, and a lot of the things that we boil up through Main Street for concerns from businesses or ideas, we go to her, and we try to do our best to make sure that we are a very good partner to the city that way. That's not to say we don't work with the police chief, but we do. We work, I'm sure you read in the last report some of the things we're doing with them. I don't want to steal any thunder from the chief, but I will tell you that I think I made Chief we made Chief Shoemate pretty happy yesterday. And so at some point you hopefully will hear what those things are. And you know, I think that I love how Brianne said that Main Street is a movement, you know, and in that movement, I'm sure there's going to be people that think, what are they doing? And there's going to be people that go, oh my God, we really love this. And I think that a lot of the visitors that we get, and I try to keep track of this, and just the tours of downtown and talking to, you know, what we have. What I love is that there are people moving here, and I'm sure you know this, that are coming from all walks of life, coming to Aberdeen, and how they view Aberdeen, they view it as Brianne said, a beautiful place, and there's a wonderful things here. I do know there are people that are residents here, and they do have their concerns, and some of the concerns from the businesses and the stakeholders in the area, day one has been, you know, we don't feel safe downtown. And that's sad. It's very sad. So one of the things we've worked on is how could we what's our role in that? What's our ability to affect that, if at all? And so one of the things is, of course, you know, we took a really good lesson from the Spooktacular events, because that's the downtown trick-or-treating event, is that while people may say it's unsafe downtown and say that to one another locally, on that day, not only are they downtown, they have their children everywhere. And yet the same reasons that they feel unsafe are still there, or they're just not seen. And so I bought into it a long time ago that social capital is very important in a way to help us to defeat that feeling amongst people. We have done things where, you know, I can tell you the chief, I don't mean to put you on the spot, sir, but, you know, day one, that's the first thing our conversation was, you know, like, this is one of the concerns of the people to embrace downtown. And he's got a monster load to schedule, and everyone on here knows that. But we worked hard to try to figure out how we can have those staffing patterns, and we've even raised funds so that we could even add to his schedule here and there. That's around a holiday to have more policing downtown. And so I think the council will be very pleased in the latest thing. But we really don't want to pop that bubble yet, because I think that the public will be excited too. And
Well, you can pop the bubble. They announced it last night, so go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we were able to raise the funds and help the chief purchase their electrical bicycle that will be there, two of them actually, for their officers to be able to use in patrol. And there's a lot of ways where mitigation of crime and just being able to be downtown and preserve officers' fatigue levels and those kinds of things, especially when you have a downtown that, like we do, with alleys and different things that are start, stop, start, stop. And we believe with the chief that this is a very good tool, not only to mitigate the issues that happen downtown, but also that it will, it adds a presence downtown that's, I think, the public will enjoy. And I think it meets a lot of the targets of what we're trying to do to keep the area feeling safe. And we are committed. Now we're looking through grants, because we would like to deliver 2 more, because we think 4 of them would be a great asset for this community and for the work that the police have to do. So the bubble did get popped. I suppose since you already heard it, it's not as big a surprise now, but for people in the public out there, are probably going, this is pretty crazy. And I'm proud. I think we're all very proud to be a piece of that. I will tell you this, that some of that money, businesses in the area don't realize that they help pay for that, because, and I want to share why, because a while back ago, we kickstarted a newspaper of all the good things downtown called 98520.life and .art. And businesses that bought ads in those papers, we said that we'd put part of that money away. So figure a good delivery to downtown as an asset, so that they'd be able to say, hey, not only did we help promote a good thing downtown, we actually invested. And so some of that money that was in our account, we closed it and used it to help purchase those bikes. And since then, we've even had another business come forward and say, hey, I want to be a part of that, and donated some money today. And so I think that's exciting stuff. Obviously, I could go on. I mean, I have, our summary of what we do is probably, it's at least 5 pages sitting right here of things that we're working on. And of course, I know that you've seen a lot of that in that report, but there's no way I could go through all of these things. Some of the council members here recently just received it because they were asking some specific questions of me, and I quickly gave it to them. And but I think that this workshop, my feeling is not for me to sit here and just tell you all the good things that I'm excited about, but I think you want to ask us questions. And like Councilman Kennedy said, not just about Main Street. So let's start. Councilman Ellis.
Thank you, Will. And thank you for sending me the things that you did so promptly. That was really great. It was exciting to see all of the things that you've worked on and are working on. What kind of floored me when the request came to council for extending a contract was after going through a really intensive budgeting process at the end of last year. I felt like I couldn't approve of something that I didn't fully understand, and with that request was not here's the budget and here's very specific things that we're doing. And I know all of that gets negotiated with Lisa Scott, but since it came directly to council, I felt like I wanted to know these things as well. So I've looked through your reports, I've looked through everything that I've gotten. I still don't feel like I have a clear sense of what ARM is planning on accomplishing this coming year through the main streets and otherwise, and how our city dollars will be put to good use.
Well, thank you for that question, Councilman Ellis. That's an interesting perspective, because I had hoped that when you had read the document on all the things that we're working on, that those are how we are spending a portion of that money. It goes into our time, it goes into the money that we use to rent our building and the utilities to keep that going, as well as insurance, as well as our CPA accountant, but you're buying some of our time. And so that investment is in, some of these categories where I've listed out not only the things that are just Main Street, but basically for the betterment of whole within our community. And so in our contract, I think that, I know you mentioned Lisa was our person to work with on this. And so, I don't think she has that official role yet. I think in the past it was Mayor Larson. And so Mayor Larson and I would meet and talk about the things that we were doing. And in the contract that we have, the primary goal really was emphasized to me was to get the Main Street designation. And so I think that I don't know, you may not know this, and for people out there are wondering, so Aberdeen Revitalization Movement is a 501c3, that's the short name for ARM, and it's been around for a long time. And it has done a lot of good people, done a lot of good things out of that agency, and it has certainly had its feet held to the fire on a few things as well. When I got hired, one of the things that we wanted to do, because primarily we're here to create this Main Street program. That was my tasking. And so we wanted to respond to a lot of the businesses and how they felt about ARM, and what because we need to be an ambassador for Aberdeen. And one of the things we wanted to do was to rebrand it. And so we applied for Main Street underneath that 501c3. But when we got right down to it, we joined the convention of other Main Streets and followed that like a downtown Aberdeen Association or downtown Ellensburg Association. And so when you hear that name, that still is doing business as ARM basically, but it's been rebranded as the Downtown Association. And so within that then, our program that we're administrating and all those things that are in those pages that I sent you fall within the things that Brianne had outlined, whether it's economic vitality or design or those kinds of things. There's a lot of area where sometimes you end up doing several things that cross all those buckets at once, and sometimes there's things that just don't fit. But with the needs of our town, we continue to try to work towards how do we accomplish those things. I'll give you an example. So one of the things beyond safety, the other thing that people came to me when I had think tanks and open houses and on the radio, and it's still today, a lot of people will tell you, when are we going to see someone paint their building and fix this and make the resiliency of this town come back alive? Probably most people sitting on the other end of this Zoom right now can say they've thought that too. And so we took it upon ourselves, obviously, to try to respond to that. And so going out and talking to building owners and saying to them, what can be done, to help get your building back where it's more vibrant, and what are the things we can do to help you? And so of course, there's some building owners that, hey, we're at a point where we put a lot of money into our building and we just don't see a return on it, and I just don't want to put any more money into that building until we know the direction of Aberdeen and see the economics turn around. And so that's led us to a lot of different avenues. One is, the cities in the state have the special valuation tax credit, where they're able to get 10 years of tax credits if they were to put some money into their building, work with the city and say, hey, this is a building that we bought and we'd like to preserve it as part of our historic part of our downtown and preserve that sense of place. I know that Lisa chairs that committee, and some of our buildings, you probably, I think right before the end of the year, you approved one, the Reiners building, to be on that list. So when we met with the state and had them do a training about these 10 years of tax credit, so we could go back to these building owners and say, hey, here's one way you can save some money. The state, after they were done doing their presentation, we came back to the state and said, 10 years doesn't work in Aberdeen. 10 years doesn't work in Hoquiam. The people that have invested in these buildings do not see a return on their money. In fact, since 1996, we only know of 2 building owners that have actually painted and absolutely restored their buildings. And so the state said, well, what would you recommend we do? And so we said, hey, sad to say, but my previous background comes in right now, and I know a lot of these policies are written on Seattle Index. In Seattle, this whole law works, but over here it doesn't. So I said, I think if you're asking what we need to do, we need to extend that tax credit out for as close to 25 years as we can. And so that led a grassroots effort to amend and change the law. And so we did that. We combined with other cities, the county, businesses or building owners, and we began to hold meetings and work. Also, then we partnered with the city through Lisa, got our language together, got legislators together, and we began to testify. And sad to say, COVID was the #1 thing in March when this law got passed, and nobody really even heard it, And so now we can able to go back to these building owners and tell them, in Aberdeen and Hopeland, because we are cities that are listed underneath the Employment Security Department as remote distressed communities. I think this also includes about 9 or 10 other ones throughout the state. And we're able to go back and say, so you can still keep that 10-year program. And at the end of the 10 years, if you feel like you put money in your building and you're not able to get any more tenants, or it hasn't worked out for you like you thought, you can go back to your city and talk to your committee and say, I think we need an extension. And the city can give you a 7-year extension. And at the end of that, you can do it again. So we got 24 years of tax credits for our city here in Aberdeen, and that's no little thing. I think when I told my partners in the state through Brianne about it, it was like, what? It was a big deal. And so I think that that's an important thing to realize if when you have to answer some of these questions about what are we doing for our buildings. Now, let's take another look at this. Talking to some of the building owners that have restored their buildings, and even the ones that haven't, you have vandalism. And vandalism is costing them a lot of money. And so there are building owners that have said, I don't want to put any more money into it. I'm going to board up my windows. I'm not even going to try to rent it out. I'm going, and they put a lot of pressure on, until you can solve the transient problem, I'm not putting more money in here. That's a difficult place to be. And I think all of us have felt that. And, we certainly want to serve our vulnerable populations and work with them at the same time, when there's property destruction, that's something that needs to be punished. That's not an acceptable thing in anybody's world. And so what that message to other building owners is, I put a lot of money in my building. Guess what? It cost me a lot more money to maintain it because I continue to have property destruction. And I don't know why that is, but the little trinkets that we spent more money on to look nice, eventually I'm just going to put a gate across this and it's going to look like a prison. And it's like, no, please don't do that, because we're trying to attract other people to do different things like that. Now, the other issue is with that restoration of buildings is this. I think all of you have been briefed on this, and you know more about it than I do, but the FEMA 10 mitigation issue, right? The North Shore levy, and so one of the things that is interesting here is, and again, I'm trying to speak to other people that are listening in on here as well, so we can be on the same page, but is that we do have a situation where, if you were to purchase a building downtown and you think to yourself, this is exactly what I want to do, once around the 50% mark of improving that building, and there's a give and take because it's whether you're doing maintenance or whether you're renovating or different things. But basically, to keep it simple, once you get to about 50% of your investment, then you've got to do the floodplain mitigation. And for a lot of building owners, that's where they stop. And then, I'm working with them right now, and I said, I won't do another thing. I'm waiting, let's get that North Shore levy in place, and then the costs will go down, insurances will go down, and, there'll be more discretionary funding, and I will be in a better position to want to put more money in there. And so those are difficult.
Will, do you mind? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was going to try to ask a kind of clarifying question to Councilmember Ellis and President Shaw, if that's okay with you.
Oh, certainly, please.
So, forgive me as the outsider. I just want to clarify, there is a contract for services that is being sort of reconsidered for negotiation between the Main Street program and the city. And within that, so to clarify, there is a contract for services that's up for discussion, yes? Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Sorry for this. So, some cities, Councilmember Ellis, might have that contract for service be really quite open and ideally focused on economic development. And I believe that either Gary or I could probably track down a good example from Ellensburg from years past, if that would be beneficial. The thing I like about Ellensburg's is that it is very much focused on the types of economic development activity that a Main Street program is already taking on. And that it does give a lot of sort of flexibility for the program. Now, if the council is more inclined to have the contract be about specific deliverables, then perhaps there's a way to come together around the summary that Will has provided and is going over with you right now, and the priorities that the council has for economic development, and find where the alignment is and make sure that those items are what is included in the contract for services, so that you feel confident that your goals are being met by the work that the downtown program is doing. And I just want to call out one example from Will's comments just now, the trainings around that special valuation tax credit that Will was instrumental in getting passed. That, from my vantage point, would probably meet city goals and Main Street goals. So with that as a comment, I just wanted to clarify if that was what you were hoping to get at, Councilmember Ellis, and perhaps if that's a way to move forward in this conversation.
Thank you. I think you did hit on one very important thing. The reason, we've had one initial contract with Main Street, and the major deliverable was to get up and running, become a Main Street association. So that is correct. What we're trying to do here is, what does our relationship look forward like going forward? And I think that you described kind of our dilemma, and our practice is that, council members will share their thoughts, what they think it should look like, but then it's up to Main Street. Main Street is a very described program. It almost has a playbook. So we need feedback from Main Street on whether what we kind of think we want, whether that even fits in with Main Street's mission. What things can we expect? And so I was looking forward to, council members being able to share what they think a Main Street relationship looks like, and then get feedback on how that fits with, because it's a very, it is a program, and we need to know whether our vision fits with, is appropriate, or how we can tweak it and get back on the same page. Look, Nathan, I see your hands up.
Thank you very much, Deanne. And I just wanted to kind of clarify something a little bit, because I think we're kind of muddying some terminology here, because Main Street is really just a part of what ARM is doing for us, and the actual contractual agreement is with the ARM organization to lead us into becoming part of the Main Street program and to run that for us. But it does have other components to it, with Main Street being the primary one. And I think the Main Street program is phenomenal. I actually really agree with a lot of what it can do for small communities like ourselves. And I do believe there's been a lot of work done to move that forward. One thing.
So maybe that's really helpful information, Nathan, because I thought our contract was ARM, doing business as Aberdeen Downtown Association. It's not, it is all the same thing, actually.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing I noted, Will, and first of all, I just want to say that I really enjoyed our friendship. I consider you a good friend, but on this end of the screen, I have to take that friendship hat off a little bit and put on my city council, hat. And I got to ask you some hard questions, because we are talking about,
Sure.
Approving a contract and working with this, and our job is to make sure that we do the city's business in the most efficient and best manner possible. And I do really appreciate the reports that you gave me when I was running for office. I believe that we had lunch that day. It was July or August. You gave me a couple of quarters, and I have not seen a report until this last one I got last week. So that's part of my problem, is that I'm not seeing any kind of consistent reporting from ARM about, you know, what you guys are doing to, you know, benefit things. And, you know, so it's really difficult when it comes to a situation like this, you know, when we just have not really seen any communication, to go, oh yeah, I can stand behind that because I've been, you know, being informed and getting this. So, you know, I really think moving forward, we really need to see some better reporting from ARM, whether it's coming from our council representative to us, or whether you're sending it to, you know, say Lisa Scott, and then she's divvying it out to the council. I see Lisa's hand up, so I'll relinquish to her. I have a couple of other things, but I'll relinquish to Lisa.
No, you go ahead and finish. I just wanted to mention that I did send the other quarterly report out this summer. I know I did, but part of the ARM has been really good about reporting. Part of the crux of the problem is the reports were going to the mayor and not to me, and they weren't getting sent out. And that was from prior administration as well. I'm not sure how those were shared. So Will started sending those to me this summer, and I made sure that when I get them, I send them directly out to you guys. So I wasn't necessarily in on the getting the reports, but I think we fixed that, but they have been really good about sending them in. So I just wanted to clarify, sorry.
Okay, that's great. I just think that we as council need to really see that as well, and we need better follow through.
Well, Councilman Kennedy, just real quick, I appreciate you bringing that up, because we worked really hard on that report. And I have to tell you that, yes, I operate under the premise that you have them. And so I will tell you that because we are in a contractor relationship with the council through, you know, in the city, is that you know, for us to be better partners and stuff. And again, I appreciate our friendship, and I do expect you to be a good councilman. And you know, I'd call you up if you weren't. So here's the thing, though, really, though, you know, I think I'm not here to point fingers, and you know, and that's not who I am as a person. But what I am here is to try to make things work a lot better. And if we can do that, then I think that's a victory for the people that are listening to, and the prospective businesses that are coming in. But I want to point out that I think, you know, this is, you know, we do have the mechanism of council on our board, right? So we're not just by ourselves on this situation. We also I need to go back and point out where, you know, not having an official designee, you know, and Lisa's been very, very good. I probably put her in situations she wasn't expecting to be in by saying, I need help because, you know, I need to be linked to somebody. And so, but as a good business practice between us both, you know, certainly at the end of 3 years would not be the time to bring up all the issues that you have questions about, because, you know, these are the kinds of things you've been monitoring the contract. And whether it's you as a council member, or whether it's somebody like Elisa or the mayor, you know, we need to be able to adjust to your questions and guide our practices and align us in ways that are fruitful. And so I want to say to you that, you know, having served as the state's contracts manager for resources across Washington, you know, one of the things that we need to think about then is how do we touch base so that we don't end up way off track and everyone's looking like, I thought, you know, ARM was this, but they're really this, and now we're lost. And so no fault of anybody here. I'm just saying that, you know, as we move forward, that's something we should think about. I know Deb Ross, Councilman Ross had her hand up too.
Unmute.
Yes, I was looking for my button. Sorry. I just wanted to say that, yes, those reports have been going to the city. And I take part of the responsibility, since I went on the board in February, for not passing those along. I tried to highlight them during my comments on council, but that really wasn't good enough. So Lisa and I have come to agreement that we'll make sure that the whole council gets the entire report every single quarter and annually as they come out. So I just wanted to clarify that, you know, the reports were going to the city. I just didn't get to the council.
I keep hearing the word deliverables. What exactly are what does that mean? What do we need to show you that we're doing? Yes.
So the most helpful document for me was the Downtown Aberdeen Association internal document, which lists under specific items like restoration of buildings, business outreach, incubator, bullet specifics, which I would say constitute deliverables. And the one element that was missing on this document was I didn't see any mention of the continuing to support the farmers market in downtown, but I would hope that would be a deliverable for you.
I'm so glad you brought that up because
Actually, Will, actually, can I give Councilmember Tawny Andrews a chance to talk? She had her hand up several times.
okay.
Hello. So I have one little disagreement. When you do renew a contract, typically that's when you negotiate a contract. So your contract became, ended at the end of 2020. So that's the time you look at that contract before you renew it. That's pretty much typical business practice. So, we just misstepped that we didn't do it sooner this year, prior to the budget, but that's, we have a new finance director, lots of stuff.
Sure.
I am curious about, you brought up the camp, which is through no fault of our own, the fact that we have to keep it open right now.
Right.
Because we tried to close it last spring and we're beholden to the governor's order right now. And as long as his no conviction or eviction notice is in place, the AG's office told us we can't close it. So we don't have a choice. Right. But, the one thing, we do have some laws and, we put the sidewalk ordinance in place. But again, right now it's a weird time. But even before that, we've always had, for quite a long time, a presence. So being as you're in the downtown, it seems like, you should know that that presence is there. It's been there for a long time. So it's about adapting and, finding creative solutions to things. Yes, we are looking at some deliverables that we've talked about. It's just, it would be nice when I've been on the council for almost 8 years now. So when this came to us 3 years ago, it was a matter of you guys going out and getting the Main Street. That was why we entered into a 3-year contract to help you guys with the first 3 years of the program. There was talk of Main Street somehow coming up with a due schedule or something where you guys could, we didn't know this was going to be a forever funded thing from the city. That's not how it was sold to us back then. We were helping the organization get going and receive their Main Street. I understand the city can pay dues at some point to be a part, just like we pay dues to the Chamber of Commerce or Greater Grace Harbor now, but not us being the sole supporter. But that was the way it was brought to us 3 years ago. But, we did table it, for, as the mayor pointed out, but we're council people and that's our prerogative to table things until we get more information. We should ask questions and we're good stewards of our taxpayers' money when we ask questions and we find different ways to do things. As Liz said, I've always told all city council member, new and old, if you want more information, vote to table it, because I'd rather a city councilman do that than to make a vote that they're not informed about or they don't feel comfortable with. But
Thank you, Tawny. Sorry, Council Member Andrews.
You're fine.
I know some of you pretty well, so if I slip, I'm going to ask for forgiveness now. Let me try to. I know Councilman Gordon has a question, but before we go there, Councilman Ellis, Sunday market is a fantastic, wonderful asset to our town. And I would go to the mat with anyone that says something different, because it kind of celebrates the best of our area right in our downtown. So you should know that, one, yes, I do have it in my report. It's underneath downtown support. And so we support them in a couple of ways. And, you know, they haven't really needed much from us lately, but they have access to our office as a meeting place and those kinds of things. But so a couple businesses came to me and asked if we would consider doing a market downtown. And of course we said yes. And so it's been tried before. So we went and talked to the people that did it before and got what worked and didn't work. And then we did a grassroots effort, which I got to tell you, you know, it was a Main Street 101 beautiful thing. Iowa State Council member Tawny even brought her camera and went on YouTube. And it was just the spirit of our businesses getting together with our community and saying, we want to lift this off the ground, even though we don't got a dime. And it happened. And so typically a Main Street would have kept that program and been able to use some of the money made to support their Main Street. In our case, we made a decision that would not be right in our case, because one is the people that were putting so much time into this. I skipped a step. I realized that I did not have the time to do all of it. I took it to a certain point, and there was an individual that was just amazing and dynamic. So I went to her and said, I think you need to be our champion. You need to be, because you're vested in this, and this is your personality and who you are. She picked it up, and that's Lauren Garrett, and she needs a big round of applause from the community to do this, because against all odds, she did it, and this is what, the third year it's happening. So we do want to support them. We want to applaud them. But as far as, you know, we umbrellaed them. I think, you know, that we had them on our business license and all those kinds of things. But now they're a standalone group. They're a new organization downtown. So I want to say that. And then I also want to say, Tawny, you know, I'm sorry, boy, somebody needs to hit me. Councilman.
It's a workshop. You're good.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. You guys can call me anything you want from this point on. So I want to say that homelessness is not an easy thing. There's no one out there that's going to come by and say, here's a formula, 1, 2, 3, let's get it over with and move on. You know, but part of my job is just like Councilman Ashley, my buddy Nathan said, you know, to administer his position correctly. I do too. To advocate for our businesses, I have to do that. And so it does impact. Some of them have been impacted more than others, and we've had one move because of that. But we have had this happen. You know, we've had a number of businesses that have tried to come into downtown, and they just didn't feel comfortable about that. And we've lost them to some of our neighboring cities. And so, you know, I have a lot of opinions about that. I've shared them. I don't think I want to go through all of those today with you. I would love to meet with any one of you and talk to you about my years as a social worker and what I've learned about working with vulnerable populations, and I'd be glad to have that conversation. So before we get to Nathan, Councilman Gordon, you had your hand up, sir. I'd like to hear from you too.
Yeah, hi, thank you. My biggest question is what you're doing downtown. I really love, but I would like to see, and I know this is part of for Lisa too, is what kind of spillover we have for the rest of the business community. Our town, business-wise, starts at the Bluff, goes to Highway 12, and then it splits two directions on 101. That's our tax base. That's where the money that the city lives on. And I really like the downtown and what's being done. But I myself personally, with the dollars being spent, even if we have to spend more, I like to make sure there's spillover to take care of me and Miss Shaw's ward or other people, or across the bridge on the other side. And that.
Councilman Gordon, I didn't hear the rest of your comments because you
muted yourself.
But I did get the gist of what you're saying. And that is, you know, for businesses that are listening in that are not downtown, they need just as much help and you're advocating for them, whether on south side or whether they're on east side or wherever they're at. I believe that's what you were saying. And
Okay,
so
yeah.
I don't disagree. I totally would tell you that when I'm able to, I do try to help all those businesses. And I know that there's some sensitivity here where, you know, some people have seen me work outside of the downtown and called me on the carpet about spending time with our businesses downtown. And so that's a fair thing. It's a no-win situation in my book sometimes, but no, every business needs help. And I can tell you that, you know, part of the answer is, you know, all of us considering what that could be. I will tell you that our Main Street is sitting on about 32 blocks. That may not seem big to you, but I have peers in other cities that are sitting on 5 blocks. And so to be able to serve and be everything everybody wants at all times, I have been mystified about how much I can do in that capacity because everyone has unique needs. Market Street is different than First Street, and so is Heron compared to Wishkah. And sir, I have to tell you that I don't want to appear insensitive. I love anyone who wants to do business in Aberdeen for that part. You know, I would be willing to help. But I do know that the dollar only goes so far, and I have to give, the city has contracted to say, spend your energy within the business district that's been established. And so they're my priority. And so I didn't want you to think though that I did not think that way.
Thank you, Will. Do any council members who've not had a chance to comment yet have any questions for Katie?
Hi. Hey, I had a question about, you know, I'm a really forward-looking person, and so I'm thinking about, you know, the next couple of years for you know, downtown, and I think a big piece of what's really important is like that downtown promotion piece, and I know Brianne hit on it a lot in her presentation, like reintroducing people to downtown, bringing together our businesses, and I just love to hear a little bit more about like your plans for promoting downtown, what's going on currently, and then some of the, you know, ideas that are being floated around in the future to really help not only the revitalization of downtown, but now it's kind of 2.0 because we have the already going on revitalization of downtown plus COVID. So just interested to hear your thoughts and the board's thoughts on that.
Okay.
I'll speak to that briefly since I chair the promotion committee. And two of the big projects that we do every year is Winterfest and Summerfest. That brings in a number of volunteers. That brings in people from outside the community to participate in both of those events. Each year we try to grow those two events so that it can promote more people getting involved and people that come downtown that participate in it. Like those two events, like this last couple of years with Winterfest, we decided to do a gingerbread house contest, and that was very successful. Now I'll tell you, this year with COVID, things were a lot different. We had to have a virtual holiday market, which Bobby was involved in. We had to have we couldn't have a breakfast, so we made snowmen out of donuts, and we distributed to all the businesses downtown, and they passed those out to people that came into their business. We had a virtual visit with Santa. So again, this year we had to really modify the things that we did. We talk about marketing to promote small businesses. One thing that we've started doing this year is that we're featuring a downtown business every 2 weeks on our Facebook site. This year we started out with the oldest business that we have downtown, and that's the Grays Harbor Stamp business. And so there, we got information about them. We promoted them on our website, and that's another thing that we're doing. I'm trying to think of, Bobby, you might want to address a couple of the things we're doing as well.
Sure. One thing I'd like to say for Councilman Gordon, one of the things for businesses that are not in the downtown core, they are all invited to the 98520 work group, and many of them do attend that. So they are involved in what we're doing, and we're involved in hearing what their needs are as they share with that group. So they aren't all just left out in the lurch. As far as promotions, we started a new one for February. Last year we did some candy downtown. You had to go into a business to guess the candy, and we've done some scavenger hunts and things like that. But this year, because of COVID, everything is different. So we are now doing a We Heart Our Downtown promotion where we invited the businesses that wanted to participate to let us know, and we delivered red hearts to them that they will put the name of the business that they're supporting, their favorite business, and their phone number on the back. And then at the end of the month, we will draw 3 of them, and we will purchase downtown gift cards from each of the 3 businesses that are on the winning hearts. So we plan on doing these kinds of events throughout the year. We did just do one, excuse me, our first quarter business promotion, and the first 10 businesses that contacted us, we purchased gift cards from them. And then I can't even remember. Yeah, then we had people just like and comment on Facebook, and then we did a random draw. So there were 10 winners. So $10 went to the winners from each business, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it hopefully will bring them into the business, and they will spend more of their dollars there. And a lot of times on our events, people tell us, gee, that was fun that we had to go into all the businesses and look for a picture or something because I didn't know that business was there, or I didn't know that business even sold that kind of thing. So those are the kind of downtown promotions that we've been working on, and we have others that we're looking forward to, fleshing out in the future.
Okay.
I want to add to that for you, Katie, because this kind of the opportunity that we have for promoting our downtown requires a lot of creative thinking. And so this is an opportunity right now to tell the people that are listening to this or will listen to it later, is that if you like these ideas, if you have ideas and you want a partner, that's who we are. We're your partner. You need to come down and talk with us, and we see how we can work together. I can tell you, in talking to the community, going to other main streets and seeing what they've got, we do have some ideas. One of the things is we weren't successful, but we did try. One thing is that honestly, there is a lot of us falling flat out on our face, but we still try. We did put an aggressive grant together with the Historic Seaport. Brandy worked hard on this thing we were going to share on some things she needed and some things we needed, but we did try to put together an interactive TV that would have been placed in Seattle, that would have spotlighted Aberdeen, that people could have there, on their break downtown in Amazon. We're going to the beach anyway, but look at this, right? And so
thanks, Will. And thanks, Bobby. And I was Councilman Kennedy.
Thank you very much. So I wanted to touch on a couple of things here because one, I do love the Winterfest and Summerfest programs. I think they're a great addition, but those are funded completely separately through LTAC that the city does.
No,
it's part of that funding. It's not exactly part of the contract that we're talking about right now. So the city funding for those events comes from a completely different source than what we're talking about tonight. Okay. So I just wanted to, touch on that. The other thing is that, some of these other programs you guys are coming up with, I'm really glad that you guys are, but, it seems like they've only come up in the past couple of months, and, you guys have had 3 years to really been, really dig in and get some stuff done. And it's just like this last couple of months when the contract's up for renewal that we're starting to see, a lot more stuff coming from you. And I think that, we kind of expect a little bit more. The other thing I wanted to touch on was, we were asked, what we want in the case of deliverables. And, I have touched on reporting, and I kind of gave up the floor before I got to finish, my comments on that. this last report we got was a great summary. I'm a details guy. I'm a numbers guy. I like to see, you know, what's behind that number on the graph that I'm seeing, because when you tell me this number, I have to either take it at face value, which I don't do ever. So it's really nice to have, you know, that as a summary, but also have the details behind where you guys came up with these numbers, so that we can dig down and say, oh, wow, that's really cool. The other thing I wanted to touch on too, because, you know, one of the things, Will, you had mentioned was that one of your largest donors or contributors had left. And I was actually under the assumption that the city was one of the largest contributors to ARM at this point. But you mentioned that they had left because of the homeless camp behind the city. And I'm just curious if you can tell us who that contributor was that left.
I certainly can't tell you that, but I can tell you that there are people in this room right now with us that sat in on those meetings. And so
One thing, Will, I think maybe it sounded like that business left the community. They
Oh,
didn't leave
no,
the
no, no.
community. They just
Sorry.
did not continue to support because they needed to use funds for security rather than to support this. And just real quick, Winterfest and Summerfest are downtown Aberdeen funded as well as LTAC. We do get a bulk of our money from LTAC, but we also get a lot of donations. And those were developed from the promotion committee for Downtown Aberdeen Association. So that's all I have.
Councilman Kennedy, yeah, details guy. I thought I was a details guy too. I'm sorry that that maybe you didn't think that I was, but no, these aren't just pulled from the thin air. There's a lot of work behind it. I can tell you that one of the things I learned in the military is, do you want me to count jam jars or do you want me to go fight the war? And sometimes I have to make those tough decisions. You know, there's only so much tracking you can do when you've got people that want to talk to you, people that want to consult or talk or have ideas that they want to share or invite you into what if we opened up this, you know, who can I work with that person? And there, I kind of feel like you don't have the benefit of the document. I don't believe you do, that Councilman Ellis has. And so it would be good for us to share that with you. And then, you know, you could work with us and let us know what are the things that you thought could be done differently. I do get the sense that you are coming from a place where the dollars that we take from the city fall directly in some buckets. And I do have a budget that shows where those dollars go. And so, but I think that if you're under the impression that the money that we get the city is sufficient enough to do all the things that we're talking about, then I would be the first one to tell you that we need to talk more about that, because some of that money is basically, we have to match it with other areas to try to get some things done. It only goes so far. And so, you know, I do feel that, can we improve? Of course. You know, while we're saying I've been here for 3 years, the first year was really just trying to get this data together and the people together so that Brianne could say, we think you could be a stable Main Street. And that was a heavy lift. I will also tell you that we weren't just easily welcomed throughout this program. We had a lot of contentious issues and we had a lot of hard moments where we felt not supportive, and we had to take 5 steps back and get positive and re-energize. And that may sound like, oh, everybody does that. It was rough. And I don't want to get into that on a public forum, but it was rough. And the second year that we were involved, then it was really like, okay, you know, we've got to start fostering projects. We need to start figuring out prioritizing those things. And, you know, sad to say, that's not for the council to do. You certainly could have input in it, but Main Street is about a movement of people, about our downtown stakeholders and working with people. And that's one of the reasons we have that work group and stuff, so we can try to get a sense on what it is that this community values. And so you are a partner in it, you know, and I think that if for sure, you know, I think that you have a right to feel you can steer it. And I think I definitely need to hear what you're thinking about that. But at the end of the day, you know, so does that small business. So does that person volunteering downtown. And so their time is worth something. And so, but there are, I do have to say that your thoughts about a lot of this flurry at the end, I can see why you might say that, because one is, you know, we certainly didn't come out of here with the best practices and all the most wonderful things we can do instantly. There was a lot of falling on our faces and empty situations. And one of them was we had an email distribution list that we just kept thinking like, how, you know, we keep sending this information out, but we never hear anything from anybody. What is going on? And so our president, Bobby, said one day, you know, we're going to switch to MailChimp where we can get some feedback on it. And I know.
I know. I'm the one who told her to switch to MailChimp.
I was good. So
thanks, Will. We're starting to need to look at. We might be able to wrap this up, and I have another council member who's had a hand up that hasn't had a chance to talk.
I apologize.
Okay. Joshua, do you want to share?
Yeah, I read over this report, but I couldn't find a mission statement or something like that.
Thank you. Councilman Francie, at the end of the report, it's right here. And I'm sorry you didn't see it, but it's always on our summary, because one of the practices we learned from Main Street was to keep that in front of us. And, you know, and so I certainly talk to me offline if you need to. I will get that for you so you can easily find it. Hopefully you're looking at the same report that I just flashed up there.
Yeah, I have it on.
I didn't hear it all. I'm referring to fourth quarter summary 2020.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm looking at. And
maybe it got cut off.
Core value. Oh, okay, wait. Improve the vitality of downtown as an exciting place to work, live, and play.
That's it.
Vision: a downtown that is constantly alive, filled with people. A downtown that is the region's common ground, the neighborhood everyone owns. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for asking, though, because now the question I take away from here is, should that be right up front in that document? So.
Thank you. So if we're gonna move along, we had a spot in the agenda for the mayor to offer a comment. Did you want to share anything, Mayor?
Thank you. I was just thinking of our experience with Main Street going back to the early 90s when we tried to get things going, and we learned that it's slow going and it takes a long time to get over the hump, and it requires a considerable investment to do that. When 3 years ago, when we started talking about Main Street here again, I clearly remember explaining this, that the biggest problem we had when we tried to get into Main Street prior was making enough investment in it. Then it was going to be hard, and it was going to take time, and it was going to cost money. And I also said at that time, 3 years ago, that I felt for the city to invest in a director and an assistant and help with an office expenses was minimal. I said that 3 years ago, and it takes a long time to get Main Street to work. And I'm kind of curious how many other cities in 3 years have succeeded in being self-sufficient as a Main Street group. The one thing about the investment that we're making here, we're investing in a program that's a proven program. we're investing our money in something that's got directions and angles that it functions in, and it's proven. It just takes time, and there's no quick answer. There's no quick way to do it. And I'm telling you, Aberdeen's a tough cookie. It's hard to get through some of this stuff here. I can remember back in the early 90s going door to door, wearing out a pair of shoes, walking around downtown, talking to business owners, just trying to get them to quit parking their car right in front of their own business front door. It's a tough city to crack. And I think there's been a lot of success over the last 3 years. And we just need to keep prodding ahead and hang in there. So that's probably about it. Brianne, did you have a...
I was just going to respond in case that was a literal question for me in terms of the self-sufficiency after 3 years. I thank you for bringing it up because I think it's highly appropriate that you thought of sort of the launch as this 3-year period. I think it is also highly appropriate that you continue to think of funding the Downtown Association as an investment moving forward, as opposed to an idea that it becomes self-sufficient, meaning no more public funding is needed. Main Street was envisioned to be a partnership between the public and the private sector. And actually with the limited knowledge I have of the Downtown Association's budget, you have actually achieved a pretty good equilibrium at this moment of public and private funding. And that's really how it should be, in my opinion, and from what we see. So to respond more directly to your question, we do not see programs become solely funded by the private sector after a short period of time. And really that's not an ideal scenario, because we do want that public-private partnership. It's pretty crucial, even for the longest standing Main Street programs. We have Port Townsend, Wenatchee, Walla Walla, that were sort of the ones that were launched in our state over 20 years ago. They still receive public investment. And I just want to end by saying that I think that the word that you used of investment is the appropriate way to view your relationship with the Downtown Association.
Thank you, Brianne. Real quick, I think everybody has had a chance to comment, except for I haven't seen, at least that I was able to see. As we start to wrap this up, do any council members have any comments to share? Yes, Nathan.
I know I've taken up a lot of the comment time here, but I just wanted to, as we wrap things up, I really just wanted to thank our presenters tonight. I know we're really asking you some tough questions, but that is really our job. And we want to make sure that the relationship that we have with ARM moving forward is going to be a productive one, and that we all have a really good understanding of what our expectations are as the city, and that we can really have that out in the open for everybody else as well. So thank you all, and Betty and Bobby, thank you for everything you guys do for the city. I just want to make sure everybody knows there's really no hard feelings. I can really, put you to the nails sometimes. So I just wanted to, make sure that the air is clear, and, we can all, hug it out when it's safe to.
Well, thank you, Nathan.
Councilman Shaw, I do want to say I appreciate this. I've been a very transparent individual, maybe too much so in many forums, but I do want to tell you that I want you to know that I'm willing to work my rear end off. But I got to know that we have this ability to talk. I've told other council members that I don't want anything between us. If I've caused reason for you to doubt me, tell me, because I will be a better steward of what I'm doing and stuff. And I think I tell my board that all the time. So I'm going to say it one more time. And that is, please, you know, it doesn't have to be at the end of the contract. You know, if next week you say, let's go try out, no one's been in that business for a while for a cup of coffee. I want to sit down and talk with you a little bit more, because we didn't cover near what I have on my desk, and we could talk about it. And so that door will always be open. So I appreciate it. And certainly no hard feelings there, Councilman Kennedy.
Thank you. I do want to take a minute and thank Gary Jones for coming tonight. I was on the fence 3 years ago when you came and made your presentation, and I wanted to do something downtown, but I wasn't sure. You know, Will is right. There was a lot of it was a disruptive time, and you played a critical role in helping us come together, and I want to thank you for that belatedly.
You're very welcome.
One of the phrases that came up tonight was asset-based economic development. I know Brianna was talking about buildings, but two of the biggest assets we have downtown are Betty and Bobby. And I would just like to, if I had $1 million to invest in downtown Aberdeen, I would let Betty and Bobby go to town with it. Thank you for all you do. In terms of the money we spend, we probably couldn't pay you to do what you do. So we're lucky you do it for free. I just wanted to offer Lisa Scott an opportunity, because she is going to be, she is really critical in this partnership. And I just didn't know, you've not had a chance to say much, Lisa. Do you want to close it out for us tonight? And do you have any closing thoughts to share?
Margot wanted to talk to you.
Yeah, Margot and
Margot,
Connie
I'm
have their
sorry.
hands up. Yeah.
I didn't see you, Margot. Go ahead.
You're muted, Margot.
Turn. Finally give me a turn and I talk to nothing. No, my comment questions can come up later. I'd prefer to listen to Lisa. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for putting me on the spot there.
I told you I was going to.
Councilwoman Ellis, I did want to say too that I don't negotiate this contract at all. This is something that council does. And I am going to do my best in helping bridge the gap that has been between the city and Main Street. And I think that, at least from observations, this has been a really tough year. And I want to say that, you know, as a city, and this is my personal opinion only, we've fallen short with communication. We haven't been the best communicators with our Aberdeen Downtown Partnership, Main Street. We could have been a lot better. I think COVID threw us completely into a tailspin. So we've been trying to figure out how to do business as a city, and in trying to survive and function in that capacity, that we've kind of been a bad partner, at least again, in my opinion only, to Main Street. And I think we could have done a lot better job, and we're learning as we're going. This is a different time for all of us. I think the city should be investing in our community, and Main Street is one of the ways that we can do that. I think that it's in its infancy. I mean, we had a 3-year contract, and majority of that time frame was spent getting Main Street off the ground. We're just getting the feel for promotions back and what that's going to look like in COVID times and outside of COVID times. Again, it's a program in its infancy. I am excited about some of the possibilities coming forward. We definitely have some challenges. Our unsheltered population have continued to pose challenges for economic development within the downtown, especially as well as the rest of the town. But you see it more in the downtown core. And yeah, it's a struggle for the businesses, most definitely. And we've got to figure out as a community how we best can succeed and grow a prosperous town. So we've got definitely some work to do, but I'm excited about some of the future and what's going forward, and getting that levy done, the North Shore levy in particular, will really help people feel more secure in investing in their buildings. That is a challenge. The floodplain does pose some extra challenges for people, even outside of downtown in redeveloping. So it's really important we get those projects done and off the ground. So the city's got a lot of work to do as well. I am looking forward to getting some kind of a draft document done with the help of council and Will and your board, so that we can bring that back to council. So yeah, Deanne, I turn our council president, I turn that back to you.
Thank you, Lisa. I see two people with their hands up. So Mr. Jones.
Yeah, thank you. I'll keep it short, but from the time I started working with the groups as ARM, I remember that I tried to meet with everybody and get an understanding of Aberdeen to begin with, and realized Aberdeen was one big Main Street program on steroids, but in various different groups. And it took a long time to bring all those groups together. And that's what's culminated to this point. The process wasn't easy. And I certainly understand that from listening to everybody tonight, that communication has been a challenge. But like I did when I entered the situation, I went back through all the records and had to review and read everything that had happened up to that point, which included the prior 3 or 4 years. But I have to say that I'm really proud of the group that came together. I thank Bobby and Betty for their dedication and tolerance of me dropping a bomb on them and trying to make sure that they came to believe in and understand Main Street. And the group that we put together in order to provide our first hire for our director, that was so key in the success of this organization. And I believe that with Will and his background, and good God, the man's tireless to begin with. And I know that he probably spends more than any 40-hour week on anything. I think that if any of you on the council really want to understand what Will does on a day-to-day basis, spend a good half an hour with him to talk to him about the number of people that he talks to on a weekly basis that actually want to do business in Aberdeen. I think you'll be surprised. A lot of the stuff that's happening right now are basically a result of some of his efforts in partnering with other organizations and being able to communicate that message. But thank you, everybody. I think this is a great venue for you to continue to learn about Main Street. It's not easy. As Mayor Shave indicated, 3 years isn't a very long time. And actually, Aberdeen, in my opinion, has made Herculean strides towards their future, even though in a tough situation. This is my second Main Street that I've been involved with from a foundation standpoint. I remember Ellensburg. It took us nearly 10 years to get to this point to where they are now. Certainly Ellensburg Aberdeen's got a ways to go, but it's got really good, as long as it continues its stride and the support and understanding that the public-private partnership between the city and Main Street is so key to its success and the continued investment, that it's going to be a very strong and long relationship. So my hat's off to everybody, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I see that our Corporation Counsel, Patrice Kent, has her hand up.
Thank you, Council President Shaw. I will take that down now. Just for a point of clarification, I appreciate that Lisa has made it a point to point out how important it is to have participation and input from City Council. But I will respectfully remind everyone that it is the role of City Council to provide policy guidance and legislative guidance, and that specific contract negotiation, and probably that's what she meant, but that specific contract negotiation is an executive function. And that's really all I had to say. Thank you.
Yeah, we know. So I think I saw Liz Ellis.
Thank you, Council President Shaw. I was going to recommend that you consider appointing a working group to help prepare specific policy and legislative sort of language to guide the contract. As we did with the Gateway Center, so that there are a few people who can put their heads together and work with Will and Director Scott on what we want to see come from this, so that it perhaps will help expedite getting a contract in place for 2021.
Okay, well, we can't do that tonight. This is a workshop, but that's certainly something that the council can do at a regular meeting if we choose. So yes, Mayor, last.
I did have one question that I didn't get a chance to bring it up. The Main Street program has tax advantages to businesses, and so we're well into that at this point here in Aberdeen. What happens if Main Street went away? What's no longer? What happens to that business with that tax advantage?
They would no longer be eligible for that tax credit, because if I'm reading you correctly, and we'll jump in if I'm misunderstanding this, but it is actually the Main Street tax credit incentive. So the business, for their contribution to the Downtown Aberdeen Association, for that contribution, they get 75% back for B&O as a tax credit. And so it is completely dependent upon your program's Main Street community designation.
Thank you.
How many businesses take advantage of that now?
Will would be able to answer that better than me. You're on mute, Will.
Sorry, I'm not quite the Zoom man I should be. So right now for this year, we have 5, I believe it's 5. Kathy oversees this for us, Kathy Williams. I think it's 5 at this moment in time that are doing it for 2021.
And Will, the dollar amount right now, do you have that?
So yeah, we have $46,000 in pledges. So they have till the end of I think we'll have another call here, in April, to see where we're at as the state. And then basically they have till November. They have to get a certain deadline where they have to get it in. And so if they don't, then those pledges could be made available. Let's say business A pledged $5,000 for 2021, but then didn't pay it because they just couldn't do it. Then what ends up happening is at the end of the year, we surrender that $5,000 opportunity to another city, and they might have somebody out there that says, we were maxed out, but now there's an extra 5,000. They'll put it there. And so that's one of the important things here is that, there are probably people listening in on right now, part of our pledgers, and they need to hear that we're a stable Main Street.
And I think it's important to note that a lot of people that are interested in donating to the Downtown Aberdeen may not be current business owners or even current residents of Aberdeen. We've got people from all over that have a connection that are looking at taking advantage of that.
Right. So it's a good question the mayor brought up, because it's something that has been concerning to me, and that is, with the money that we get from the city, that adds some stability to us. And so that when people do pledge, they know this agency will continue on this year and into next year. So will be the strength of, if the city and the council approves of it, to look at a performance period that was recommended to us by the state and the national Main Street, was to go through all the election cycles within a city council, which I believe a 5-year span does that, so that you can have that stability. I also realize saying that to this city council in the middle of COVID, that's a tough, and a tough thing to commit to for anything. But certainly the connection to the city does add viability for people that do want to donate. Because they don't want to donate and then have a shutdown and we're done 3 months from now.
Thank you. So council, do last call. Otherwise, I'm preparing to adjourn the meeting. If I really, again, I want to thank everybody. This it's I don't know about you, but I'm tired, but I feel like I got a lot of information and lots to think about, and we can all process our thoughts going forward. Feel free also to reach out to Lisa and Will or anybody else that's here and for more information. So seeing no more electronic hands or waving hands, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Brianne.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, Brianne.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Stay healthy.